PUV-MP. Itutuloy na. Marcos, LGBT-friendly. At Venezuela, Guyana. Kumusta for me? This is for Joseph and welcome to News I Deem Worthy Recap, weekly edition number 31. We have tons to cover since last week, so skip to the timestamps provided if it piques your interest. Get maganda na for replacing selective summation. Here are some page news commentary for your convenience. Unconsolidated PUVs allowed on the streets. Ayon sa Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board o LTFRB, sila ay magpapublish ng listahan ng mga ruta na may less than 60% consolidation rate ng mga number of authorized units o NAU kung saan ang mga unconsolidated individual operators ay maaari pa rin makapag-operate at pumasada up until January 31, 2024 so long as they meet this 60% less or at least less than 60% consolidation rate sa kanilang mga ruta. Matatandaan nating nasa around 30% lang ang consolidation rate sa mga jeepneys at 44% naman sa mga UV Express units na bumabiyahe sa NCR o around total of 35% in totality ayon sa LTFRB NCR District Office. Which just goes to show you na napakaraming operators ang hindi pa nakakapag-consolidate lalo na yung mga hindi pa nakakapalit ng kanilang mga engine para maging Euro 4 compliant. Matatandaan rin natin na naghain ng petisyon ng grupong Piston para iprotesta ang ipinupush ng LTFRB patungkol sa konsolidasyon ng mga units. Sinasabi nilang kapag sila ay sumali sa isang kooperatiba o korporasyon, mawawala na ang ownership ng kanilang mga unit, especially sa mga single operators among other concerns. Bagamat hindi pa naghahain ng Supreme Court of the Philippines ng TRO patungkol sa PUV Modernization Program, inuutusan na ng Korte Suprema ang DOTR at LTFRB upang mag-respond sa petisyon ng grupong Piston sa loob ng 10 araw, although that would be after January 1. So, I don't even know if that would make any difference, but so long as the January 31, 2024 deadline na sinasabi ng LTFRB patungkol sa less than 60% consolidation rate, well, they could in theory put the TRO back on the table. Nagprepare na rin ang mga LGU sa posibleng impending transport strike o transport crisis sa Pilipinas leading up to at after the December 31 deadline. This is becoming very bad para sa mga commuters, operators, drivers at sa gobyerno. These people are the bulk of the masses na naglagay sa inyong posisyon. Lalo na yung mga nasa masa or yung mga populace of the working class. Yung mga proletariats. Not to mention, Pasko at Bagong Taon. Napakapangit na prospect or yung visuals, lalo na yung nangyayari ngayon, na yung mga isang tukang jeepney drivers at mga commuters magsa-struggle or at least mawalan ng kabuhayan at syempre less alternatives sa mga ruta at mga PUVs na pwedeng gamitin to and fro work to, get some bread. It really is a situation that should be approached differently. Ang baba pa nga ng subsidiya na binibigay nila. I think it's around 210,000 to 280,000 para sa mga Class 1 vehicles to Class 3 vehicles. Ang daming kilos protesta ang nangyari sa Kalakhang, Maynila patungkol sa impending deadline ng DOTR LTFRB na patuloy pa rin nangyayari even up until now. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang mga kilos protesta laban sa impending PUV Modernization Program. Anyway, here's the previously made NIDW recaps to explain whatever is going on. So, keep in mind na matagal na to, or at least a few weeks ago na to. Merong mga outdated stats pero it's basically the same thing, which is why nilalagay ko na lang ulit sila nung nilalagay ulit. So, here we go. Nag-file ng petisyon ang grupong Piston laban sa umaambang PUV Consolidation at Modernization sa Korte Suprema at ngayon naghahantay ng desisyon upang pigilan ang nasabing modernizasyon. Nag-file sila ng petisyon sa Korte Suprema upang maitanong kung legal nga ba ang mandatory consolidation para sa mga kooperatiba kapalit ng permit para sa unang araw ng Enero 2024. Nagkaroon ng transfer strike o tigil pasada noong December 14 at December 15, 2023 na pinamunuan ng Piston o pagkakaisa ng mga samahan ng tsuper at operator nationwide. Although, of course, nag-upisa sila noong 14 pa lamang at sinundan naman sila ngayon ng Manibela o Malayang Alyansa ng bus employees at laborers to the 18th of December hanggang 29th of December patungkol sa konsolidasyon at pag-phase out ng mga traditional jeepneys na hindi pasok sa standard ng Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board o LTFRB na i-implementa sa ika-31 ng Disyembre 2023. Kumbaga, this is a last-ditch effort o Hail Mary kung saan gusto nilang iparalisa yung transport system ng ating bansa, especially sa NCR, para malaman ng gobyerno o ng LTFRB DOTR na talagang hindi kakayanin ng Pilipinas and basically our metro system to handle such a consolidation or at least yung pag-phase out nga or pagtanggal ng prangkisa ng ating mga tsuper operators. Sinasabi ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na 70% ng mga operator ay nakapag-commit at nakapag-consolidate na under the new Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program o PUVMP. Ayon sa datos ng DOTR LTFRB, the statistic kung saan sinasabing 153,000 out of the 222,000 o 69 nice 0.8% have compiled or at least have complied with the PUVMP, samantalang 1,739 na kooperatiba or bagong kooperatiba na ang nabuo kasunod ng mandatong ipinatong ng gobyerno. Ngunit maraming nagsasabi at least yung mga transport groups na hindi ito yung big picture or at least hindi ito yung full picture or at least kung saan tayo dapat nakafocus. Masyadong inflated yung mga numbers na ito. Sinasabing kasama raw sa statistic na ito, yung 70%, ang mga bus at minibuses pati na yung mga UV expresses. Now, minibuses I understand kasi they're practically para sa mga traditional jeepneys, pero ayon sa Rappler na kinuha ang datos sa piston, only 26% lang at 36% lang ng jeepneys at UV Express units respectively ang nakapag-consolidate, samantalang nationwide 84,000 out of the 150,000 or around 56% or 57% lamang ang na-consolidate. 26% sa jeepneys at 36% sa mga UV Expresses or at least sa Kalakhang, Maynila lamang ang nakapag-consolidate. Well, talagang makikita mo na mahirapan or at least mahahamper yung mga operators or at least yung mga jeepneys or at least yung public transportation system natin sa December 31 deadline. We don't even know if we should call these as public transportation as they are privately owned, although it's not like they could all strike. I mean, wala silang pera, they don't have the money to do it and they can't sustain them for very long. That's why paulit-ulit na lang or at least pa dalawang araw, tatlong araw lang yung PV strike. Although this would be the last ditch effort kung saan from December 18 to December 29 talagang complete stop na sila sa kanilang, or at least yun yung gusto nila mangyari. Gusto nilang complete stop on all their operators or at least all their jeepney operators. Sinasabing ko lang magiging transport crisis sa Pilipinas, which may very well be true, pero remember, ang commuting is not just the commuters but also the drivers, conductors, and operators as well. I mean, them taking the money na otherwise would be spent on goods in malls and luxury items will be better spent sa mga jeepney kung saan mas madaling magsi-circulate yung pera, making it more viable to the economy rather than lining the pockets of the richest of the rich in the Philippines. Kumbaga, at least ginamit natin yung pera na mapupunta dapat sa mga tsuper. Well, sa tsuper, gagamitin agad nila yung pera na yun because there will be no spare expenses sa kanila. Samantalang kung bibili tayo ng luxury goods sa malls or anything for that matter na, kumbaga sinisave lang nila yung pera nila in a vault somewhere para sa dragon na nag-hoard ng gold, well, hindi nila isi-spend yun and therefore hindi masisirculate sa economy, which is what we want with the money. Kasi nga, that's how economies work in general. And if binigyan lang natin sila sa mga kumpanya tulad ng SM na hindi naman sa sinasabi kong bihira sila mag-develop but masyado silang corporatized at marami silang liquidity or financial holdings kung saan yung wealth nila naka-stock away lang, hindi nila ginagamit yon. Consolidation talaga yung mga yung fino-focus ng ating DOT or LTFRB. Umaangal ng mga transport groups sa planong pag-phase out ng mga hari ng kalsada, ang mga traditional jeepneys na hindi pasok sa standard ng LTFRB sa kontrobersyal na Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, citing high cost of the newer models adding burden to the isang tukang jeepney drivers. And they postponed it like 6 years now. So I don't think there are any more leeway to be given, pero it's still a governmental agency which means they can do whatever the fuck they want and will have no say with what goes in and out. Sinabing ang mga modern minibuses na nire-recommend as the alternatives made in China costs too much, around 3 million pesos each at the high end and 1.5 million pesos for the lowest end according to the LTFRB. Samantalang ang ating mga jeepney drivers ay hirap makabayad ng kanilang boundary kada araw. And although I am talking about the operators that will shoulder the cost, it will still be the drivers who will be taking the punch. Not to mention yung kakarampot na 210,000 to 280,000 na subsidiya ng gobyerno per operator or at least per unit na bibilhin ng operator or ng jeepney driver or whatever cooperative na nag-consolidate as a result of this modernization program. Isa yan sa mga concern, ang mga operator na nagme-may-ari at nagpaparenta ng kanilang traditional jeepneys para sa boundary ang maapektuhan ng malala ng naturang pag-phase out ng decrepit at bulok na PUV jeeps. Pag may-ari nila ang mga jeeps na suddenly ay magiging obsolete starting January 2024. Though, to be fair, bihira sa isang tsuper na sila ang magme-may-ari ng kanilang minamanehong jeepney, which is in fact a crucial shame, pero it's more in the standpoint of gagamitin lang nila yung jeepney na yun and then they'll pay for the boundary and then do whatever they want. Hindi na nila kailangan isipin yung repair cost, maintenance cost, at saka yung parking nun. So that was a plus for them. But still, hindi sila yung may hawak ng means of production nila, which in that case was the service na pinoprovide nila as the drivers sa mga ruta. I don't wanna get too deep into the dialectical materialism, pero that's basically how it goes. I approve of the Jeepney Modernization Program dahil sa mga pasaway na tsuper, mga bulok na sasakyan na hindi lang hazard sa environment, kundi hazard rin sa aesthetic at safety ng mga mananakay at mga taong nasa kalsada, which is mostly mga tsuper at mga pasahero nila because of the open unfiltered air emissions at yung pag-inhale ng emissions ng mga decrepit at bulok na jeepneys. I approve of the Jeepney Modernization Program because of the implications at mga pinupush ng LTFRB tulad ng pagsiset-up ng mga tsuper ng kooperatiba or corporations or whatever na binubuo ng mga jeepney drivers, not just operators course, yung single link operations. Upang hindi sila mag-unahan at mag-compete sa mga mananakay na isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit sila nagbe-break ng mga pamantayan sa lansangan. It also standardizes their salaries and even employment benefits if they're lucky. Not to mention the dreaded boundary system sa single driver to operator model na nagpa-proliferate kung saan naiuwi na lamang ng ating mga mamang tsupera ay kakarampot kapag tinanggal na yung cost ng crudo at boundary. Because even in the system of operator to jeepney driver relationship, sila pa rin magbabayad sa crudo na gagamitin nila. I don't want to antagonize the operator, the owning class, and the laborers, the drivers, kasi basically in the same vicinity, they're basically in the same class, just with different holdings. Sa kooperatiba, magkakaroon sila ng say sa mga desisyon ng consolidated cooperatives instead of individualized. Kasi kapag kooperatiba, nadedemocratize yung desisyon na ginagawa sa isang korporasyon o kooperatiba as I said. Kung saan, ang mga manggagawa ang may-ari ng makinarya ng kanilang pagkita at makademokrasya ang pagdesisyon nila sa kanilang trabaho. Anything related to their work, like participating in strikes, fares, benefits, at syempre collectivized and communalized yung responsibilities at duties ng mga jeepney drivers. Kaya I am definitely approving of the cooperative system na pinupush at yung consolidation na pinupush ng LTFRB. Kasi with a consolidated fleet, mapupush yung mga drivers to, be more mindful of how they treat the lansangan kasi nga an accident or any misguided recklessness in their driving could result into the whole operation stopping or at least pausing for a minute. Ngunit of course, ang papasa ng cost na yan ay ang ating mga jeepney drivers pati na yung mga biyahero at parokyano ng one-in-a-kind transportation method na kailangan taasan ng boundary o lease sa mga ginagamit ng jeep. Pair that with high inflation, disproportionate fare hikes at presyo ng crudo, talagang ang bilyones na subsidy ang kakailanganin para mapalitan ang nawawalang capacity ng local transportation method ng ating mga syudad. Isa pa sa mga kritisismo ay ang soulless at bland design ng mga minibus na i-import pa galing China. Maraming nagpupush na tulungan ng gobyerno ang mga lokal na industriyang aangkop sa lokal na demand ng mga modern jeepneys. At least yung aesthetics will be the same as the traditional jeepneys, just with a bit more twist. 30 to 60% I think of the fleet is already modernized and hindi naman kailangan yung may aircon and all that stuff. It is recommended pero hindi naman yun yung main focus ng modernization program, or at least yung nakaraang transport strike proved it to be negotiable. It's more on the makinarya at engine na ginagamit to be Euro 4 or Euro 5 compliant with regards to their engine. So at least yung aesthetics will be the same as traditional jeepneys kung ang gagawa is yung local na industriya at meron ng ganong locally made vehicles na pinoproduce but of course with limited capacity. But yes, I approve of union work as they give bargaining power to the working class. I mean that those that produce value in a company or any institution of money-making endeavor. Sure, it's disruptive, but that's what protests are supposed to do. Else, what does inconveniencing you does? And in this case, the bosses are the government who wants to implement sweeping changes that could potentially cripple their bottom line, the approval of the people, and crippling those relying on the income generated in this endeavor. It doesn't matter if I don't agree with what they want to accomplish. Union work is union work, and we cannot impede on that front. We have freedom of assembly. Albeit, I see their protesting as more of an overreaction kasi nga marami rin transport groups ang did not participate in this kind of disruptive transport strike kasi nga they're probably overreacting. But yeah, I do agree with some of their points. The officials from LTFRB and MMDS said the strikes did not make a difference or dent in the transportation capacity of the country. I think they said they have 680 reserved vehicles to deploy kapag nagkaroon ng triple transportation mobilization, pero they have only deployed like 10% of the total fleet. I mean, freaking scabbers. Anyway, by branding them as scabbers, we cultivate animosity inside the working driving class, which we do not want. Kasi nga kailangan natin sila bigyan ng breathing space as in dialectical materialism. We need to cultivate a class consciousness at hindi dapat natin pinag-aaway yung people with the same cause. Kasi nga pag nagkaroon ng animosity between two sides of the same coin, the bourgeoisie or the owning class would be the only one benefiting sa squabble na ito. The scabbing isn't a huge statement with regards to the hold of the union, rather a statement on the lengths of our hardworking drivers will go to out of desperation just to break even and put food in the table. The broken system that perpetuates the misery and poverty. The reason why I even agreed to the proposal was because of their bargaining back then. I mean, it reduced the phased out vehicles from all traditional jeepneys to just those that are decrepit and literally have parts falling off the road. And that's the only goal, or at least, and that's the greatest overall win we could ever achieve, along with some minor improvements sa mga existing traditional jeepneys. Although I agree they should up the loan and grants/subsidies to be given to our chuper. For this is the supposedly unintended result of boosting importation from modern jeepney manufacturing countries like China, of which the Philippines has little to none. Kaya I was pushing for the local government to have some protectionism of our local industries with regards to this kind of stuff. Kasi nga traditional and basically modern jeepneys are an essential part of the public sector and public utility vehicle in general and transportation also. Kailangan natin magkaroon ng backbone of a local industry to supply and meet the demands of the market.
Here are some more PH news for your convenience. Marcos creates special committee for LGBTQIA+ rights and communities. Bumuo ng isang special committee on LGBTQIA+ affairs si President Marcos Jr. galing sa kanyang Executive Order 51 to assist and aid to report cases of discrimination based upon their gender identity or sexual
social preferences. The order also aims to revitalize diversity orders. Kasama sa nasabing komite na pangungunuhan ng DSWD Secretary, co-chair ang mga secretaries ng DMW at DOLE, samantalang ang DILG Secretary naman ang magiging vice chairperson. Kasama sa mga miyembro ng special committee ay ang mga secretaries from DepEd, DOJ, DOH, CHED, at along with 3 members from LGBTQIA+ organizations as assistant secretaries. Maraming natuwang LGBTQIA+ organizations at mga miyembro nito ng mga komunidad sa nasabing paggawa ng komite, ngunit sila pa rin umaasa sa pagkabuhay muli ng diskusyon para sa reintroduction at pag-revitalize ng support ng mga legislatura, ehekutibo at ng judiciary sa sexual orientation and gender identity expression o SOGI bill. Less taxes for agri-products. Pinalawig pa ni President Marcos Jr. ang mga pagbabawas sa taripa sa mga produkto ng agrikultura sa pamamagitan ng kanyang Executive Order 50 na nag-extend ng bawas na taripa sa mga ini-import ng produktong agrikultura sa karne, mais at bigas up until December 31st, 2024. So basically, the whole year. Ipinupush ng pagbabawas ng taripa ang pag-i-import ng mga aforementioned na produktong agrikultura upang maibaba ang pagbilis ng pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin. PNR reopens Naga-Legazpi Rail. Matapos ang 6 na taong suspensyon ng operasyon ng PNR sa segment ng Naga City, Camarines Sur to Legazpi City, Albay, ibinuksan muli ng PNR ang serbisyo sa nasabing ruta that will greatly assist commuters from these cities sa loob ng probinsya ng Bicol and along the lines of whatever cities they come across to. Ang rail segment service ng Naga-Legazpi Rail ay magta-travel ng higit 100 kilometro at dadaan sa mga karating na syudad tulad ng Iriga at Ligao City. Here are some global/international news for your convenience. Venezuela votes to occupy half of Guyana. The Venezuelan government has ordered a memorandum and voting with regards to the annexation and occupation of almost half of a neighboring country in South America after it struck oil in its exclusive economic zone by its shores. The Essequibo region in Guyana has been a contentious territorial dispute between the two South American countries for centuries, but it was also revitalized and exacerbated by Guyana finding oil in its EEZ. We already know that Venezuela has the largest deposits of oil in their shores, but unfortunately, due to the non-friendly authority or government inside and presiding over Venezuela, there are a lot of tariffs and sanctions levied against Venezuela, which is why they can't refine oil nor produce it, even though they have the largest deposits or at least reserves of oil in their, or at least offshore oils in their country. ExxonMobil, one of the largest oil companies in the entire world, discovered an estimated 11 billion barrels of oil in Guyana way back in 2015. The Venezuelan government filed a referendum to consult the Venezuelan people as they propose an intervention, annexation, and occupation of the Essequibo region in Guyana. At yan ang pagtatapos ng News I Deem Worthy Recap Weekly Edition for roughly the 5th week of December 2023. Mag-suggest more topics and or corrections to balitas if you feel I misrepresented them in any way. As you can see, talagang binibilisan ko talaga yung salita ko because, well, tinatamad ako. Happy New Year and happy holidays for all of you. Thanks for the 6 months of content, I guess. Pero I still haven't built up the audience that I want. It'll come by eventually. I have this cha-cha sa camera thingamajig in the back burner where I will be discussing the potential charter change that was introduced by the Speaker Martin Romualdez in their top, or at least in their priority for the legislative year 2024. Salamat sa panonood mga kabayang. For me, like, subscribe, and follow my links in socials on Vorb. Choose if that would be linked down below. Sa susunod bali, paalam.